tell me, like, let's like go deeper, like, well, like something like color psychology. What is the crack with that? Because obviously, obviously you see people with like different color palettes. So some people go for something nice and bright. Other people go for, let's say, sort of more darker, more like sort of like rurally kind of like colors, like greens and browns, like just sort of like, why would the brands be, pushed towards, let's say, having a bright palette rather than a rural palette, or just like more traditional reds and blues or whatever?
So it depends on your audience, number one, and it depends on sort of the vibe you're going for. So we already have sort of preconditioned ideas of colour. A lot of banks will use things like blue, like a dark blue, and that's associated with trust. Things like oranges and yellows are associated with the energy. Red can be a funny one because we see red in things like danger signs and things like that, but red can also be romantic. It can be quite cutesy, and it can go as deep into how bright or how dark your colour is to how we feel about it. So a dark red will be perceived one way, whereas a really bright red will be perceived a complete opposite way. So that's why we do the strategy. So we figure out what your customer is going to be drawn to. So if you've got like a really youthful, energetic audience, they will be looking at, much sort of brighter, funky, interesting colour palettes, almost maybe things that maybe don't go together and are a bit of a clash. Sometimes that really works for a younger audience. You might have people who are like the working dog audience. It's more of a serious thing. They don't necessarily go more to the playful colours. They might want something more maybe health-based, and we think of things like the light blue or, the greens and things for the eco. So it literally is finding out the vibe and matching it up. So it's it's like a massive jigsaw, the whole thing, and getting your colours out there it's just one piece of the puzzle. The same as the logo, just one tiny piece of the puzzle.
So do you, like, when people come to you, let's say, because obviously some people would obviously have like a very preconditioned notion of what they want, but other people maybe not so much. So how much do you advise on, let's say, demographics when it comes to things like colours? Because obviously if you're using purples and light blues and whites and that sort of stuff, like real quite funky stuff, you're obviously, I would imagine, aiming for a younger demographic. But how does, sometimes brands don't even understand their own demographic. So how would you sort of advise with
that? This would normally come out, like, again, in the early stages. And I think it's more of, I wouldn't say it's a pushy approach at all. I'm more like a partner type. The way I work is more like a partnership. And, you have it at all different levels. It's like someone might come in and say, I've got some lovely purple curtains and my favourite colour is purple. So I really want purple in my brand. But then, their audience, there may be a really eco-friendly, natural, earthy kind of company. And you're saying, well, purple doesn't really fit. There's not a whole lot of purple out there in the natural environment. So why don't we look at shades, maybe warmer shades because they like purple, and then look at warmer, earthy shades because that fits more with the brand. So there's a little bit of give and take where it'll be somebody's personal preferences and what they feel about their brand, and then looking at it from the outside.